consent agenda, are there any items A through E that the board would like to hold for further discussion? Hearing none, let's vote.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Joel?
Yes.
Clark? Yes. White?
Yes.
Kinderman? Yes. Cole?
Yes.
Bowden?
Yes.
Andrews?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And we've got our first presentation today from the High School Robotics Club, which is usually the board members' favorite meeting of the year because it's fun, but we'll turn it over to Coach Austin and our students.
Can you do introductions of who's here, please?
Hello, we are team 15382. I'm not a robot. My name is Cameron Hendrickson. I'm a junior and I am part of the management and social media team.
I'm Reese. I'm also junior. I'm part of outreach, programming, designing, and building.
I'm Brooklyn. I'm a sophomore. I do design, building, and programming.
I'm Brandon. I am a part of the design and building team.
I am also Cameron. I do design.
So basically the first thing we want to talk about is what our competitions look like for robotics. So each year there's a new task that we have to complete. And this year what we have to do is there's different blocks or specimens that we either have to hang on bars or put on different things called a basket. So those are our baskets, and you can see that there's two different heights. And our goal is to get into the highest basket, which gets us 8 points. And there are also different bars that we can go and hang on. So the lowest bar gets us 15 points, and the highest bar gets us 30 points. The only thing with hanging on the highest bar is we have to climb our way up, which is hard with a big robot like that.
So with the bucket that we have made, that's our bucket that we're going to use to hold our specimens in. And the specimen will get dropped into there from the front claw. And then we'll raise it up to either the lower bucket or the higher bucket. And that bucket was a part of a design that Cameron and I made. He did most of the design for it. And then I did some of the dimensions with 3D printing.
I did several prototypes to get the shape and dimensions correct for what we needed. I also helped designing the servo, how it attaches to the slides.
So as you can see, we do have the bucket and the claw running on different slides or arms. So basically what those slides do is they lift up the bucket and So basically those slides look pretty easy, but they're actually really hard to put together. There's a lot of little parts and a lot of things where if it's going the wrong way, it's going to be wrong. There's no doubt about it. You can't just shake it to get a screw to fit or anything like that. So getting all those things in the perfect places is definitely a lot harder than a lot of people would think or it may look. And another challenge that was with it is figuring out how many slides we actually need, because there's also different size restrictions. So we had to make sure it fit in our size restriction. So once we figured out how many slides we needed, or if we even need a slide, because for our front arm, we don't even use any slides. So once we figured all that out and got all the pieces the right direction and in the right spots, it all worked out pretty good, and we can get it to reach the top basket just like we wanted it to.
Yeah, and then we have one more kind of integral part of our robot is the claw. You can see it open and close here. It took a bit of work to do. We have it connected to a servo, which connects one arm to the gear, and then it turns the other gear it's connected to, and it then opens and closes. It actually was very difficult to make. We had to go through quite a few prototypes. Then we had to figure out how to mount it. Then when we mounted it, we figured out that one of the arms was broken, so we had to fix that. Then we figured out the gears were skipping, and the programming wouldn't work. But through all these trials and tribulations, we have a claw that works now, but there was a lot that had to go on behind the scenes to make it work.
And then for sponsorships this year, we are sponsored by Birdbaum Drone Services, Origin Design, and Farm Tech. And for some outreach this year, we did a PTO maze at the PTO Fall Festival.
So like Brooklyn and I had mentioned, we're both programmers. So programming is everything you see to get the robot to move. So we program the wheels, the arm, the servos, every motor on there. Basically anything that gets it to work, we programmed it. And programming is difficult because it's a type of programming language that we're not often taught or that's easy to just pick up. So the type of program we use is called Java Blocks. There's also just plain Java. That's something we're not generally taught, and it's hard to find programs to learn how to do it. So figuring out programming in general is definitely a struggle. But once you figure it out, it's kind of like, how did I not see this before? But as Brooklyn said, a major thing was programming the claw, because lo and behold, our servo was programmed as something it wasn't actually supposed to be. So we had to go back through and actually reprogram the servo. But once we got that figured out and programmed, we got it all working, and that all works. So we're ready for our driver part. But there's also a part where it's autonomous. So basically, the robot just goes off, and you can't touch the controller. You can't control or anything. Everything, every move it makes is pre-programmed. So that's another thing that we have to figure out, and that we're going to start working on next week, is figuring out how to get it to move and like without us driving it, and also getting it to score us the necessary points that we need.
And then this year we've got 2 competitions. They're actually coming up pretty soon here. Our first one is the Thumb War competition in Greenfield, Wisconsin. We're driving up there on December 6th, and then the competition is early in the morning on December 7th. And our second one is the Lakeshore Qualifier in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. We go up on the 20th, and we compete on the 21st. We're actually pretty excited this year because it's been reported that earlier competitions like these have a higher rate of moving on. And we're pretty proud of our robot design this year, so we're feeling optimistic.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Can we see it? Put the thing in the bucket?
Ooh.
Maybe?
So as you can see here, this is Brandon, and he's our wheels, but I am piloting our arms and our claws. We need 2 drivers for this robot.
And one coach.
And one
so,
coach.
like another student can, or another person can be in there with them.
Can you talk while you're doing it? Or is it
Yeah. So that's what the coach is. The coach usually like basically tells them what to do or figures out the best strategy.
Are you timed on it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
There you go.
yeah.
I just really confused.
Yeah. A 30-second autonomous period and a 2-minute driver period. I think, yeah.
How do you score points during the autonomous period?
So basically, it's kind of what you see. So what they're attempting to do, except we have it pre-programmed. So what we can do is we can have one of those blocks actually preloaded into our bucket. So we can start with that in there. And then the next thing is just programming the robot to drive to the side, lift that bucket up, and then dump it into the basket.
How many hours do you think you have in so far?
Our practices are anywhere between 2 to 3 hours, 2 times a week. And I think we've been going for about 3 months.
And then and then the week of our competition, we do a cram week. So we have about 3-hour practices Monday leading up till Friday.
Hopefully we'll get that faster by the competition time, but this is one of our first actually getting it up and driving around and practicing with the bucket and everything, because it's taken a while to get it all programmed and built together.
How many for you guys was this your first like introduction in high school, or have you guys been Lego leaguers? Like, were you part of the Lego League group as well?
Us 3 have been in Lego League.
Lego leaguers, okay.
Yeah, I've been in junior FLL and FLL since 2nd grade, so I've always wanted to join a robotics team as well.
Fantastic. I think your futures are bright with just being able to do that, because not many people. I'm happy if I can make a little ball go around on a screen to code it. Like, that's amazing. Good job. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I can't
Jason, we'll take the elementary report, please.
All right. I'd like to start with recognition of all Cuba City school staff, board members, community members, and families during this American Education Week. While we have focused our recognition at school this week on the importance of our school staff, I think it's important to note that the impact that our community has as well. The philosopher Confucius stated, "Education breeds confidence, confidence breeds hope, hope breeds peace." And I think we all must be that confidence, hope, and peace for our children. Today, I want to share the Cuba City Elementary report card for the 2023-2024 school year. Priority score indicators for the elementary school. In math, we had a rating of an 81.5, which is significantly higher than the state average of 64.5. In English language arts, we had a rating of 67.5, which is also higher in comparison to the state number of 58.6. Cuba City Elementary students scoring in the advanced and meeting expectations range in math are 11.1% higher than the state average. And our third grade ELA indicators for post-secondary success continue to exceed state averages by 15.5 rating points. Our focus moving forward is for continued growth in math and ELA for all students, with a need for intentional interventions specific to address growth for students with developing, approaching, meeting, and advanced performance levels. We are proud of our overall score of 62.5, which indicates that Cuba City Elementary meets expectations for state standards, and we're excited to demonstrate further growth in this coming year. In reflection of our school report card, I extend a sincere thank you to our school staff for their diligence in balancing the necessary details of student safety and well-being with a dedication to establishing, maintaining, and evaluating student achievement in academics. That's what I have for tonight.
Awesome, thank you.
Any questions?
I just have one.
Yep.
Jason, you mentioned, I get into like this piece, I love looking at the data. Notice that our growth had actually decreased from last year to this year overall. Are you going to be partnering with like CISA to really look at some of those planful interventions and what we're going to do to kind of continue? Numbers aren't always key. It's if we're seeing growth in the right direction, right? That's what you're always looking for. So.
Yeah, and one of the challenges with that is because of our achievement being higher, it makes that growth more difficult to obtain. That's why we want to continue to focus those interventions at all levels, not just the one in particular.
Other questions of Jason? All righty. Chris, middle and high school report.
Sure, and I guess I will start with that kind of that question that you had. We going into this, we were always told that you gotta be careful comparing year to year, and actually this year we actually got an email that said, do not look at this comparative to other years. They changed a lot of the parameters. So keep that in mind when we're looking at it. Our middle school, I'll start with that. Overall score, 72.5, which exceeds expectations. ELA was 70.2%, which was 12 points higher than the state expectation of 58.1. Math achievement, 70.6, which was 14.9 points higher than the state expectation of 55.7. Our ELA growth in middle school was 64.1, which was 1.9 points lower than the state expectation. And yes, I did actually look at our last year's, even though I was told not to, but we are making a little bit of gain there. Our math growth was 71.7%, which was actually 5.7 points higher than the state expectations. So that was a move in the right direction for us. We had 59.2% of our students were proficient or advanced in ELA, and 70.4% were proficient or advanced in math. And our chronic absenteeism was at 9.4%, which is still way better than the state, but it's an area that I want to see us improve upon. For the high school, We had an overall of 68.2, which meets expectations. And you can see with the middle school at 72.5 exceeding, we're right on the edge of the exceeding. I'm guessing that 70 is probably the cut score for that. So we're really very close. ELA achievement was 66% on the nose, which was 7.7 points higher than the state expectation of 58.3. Math achievement, 71.4%, which was 18.7 points higher than the state expectations. ELA growth was 43.2%, which was 28.8 points lower than state expectation. Again, we are making improvement there. Again, we're not supposed to compare it, but we are. And our math growth was 67.9%, which was 1.9 points higher than state expectations. I highlighted the in the yellow, and I don't know if you guys got the same colors that I did. But I guess I wanted to focus on the fact that our growth in math is now above state, which means we are making improvements there. And like Mr. Hosmer said, it's difficult when we have high achievement to show that growth, but we're moving the needle a little bit. I was also excited about the ELA achievement being higher than state expectations for the high school, because previously we were not. We were right around that or just a little bit lower. And so we've actually moved the needle on that as well. On track for graduation, it's 99.2%. I would love to see that be 100%. So that's an area I would like to focus on. We had 61% that were proficient or advanced in ELA and 71.7% that were proficient or advanced in math. So again, I would like to see the ELA raised a little bit more. And our absenteeism was 8.1%, which is well under the 24% that the state sees. But again, I think that that's an area that we can certainly make improvement on.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions of Chris?
How is that achievement score under the target group outcomes? How is that calculated? Because it looked like you had, I just don't understand.
So target group outcomes, they identify after the test which students didn't test the best, and they clump them together. So it could be a group of students, it could be an EL group, it could be a students with disabilities, it could be a socioeconomic disadvantage, and then they just look at that achievement of that particular subgroup. But you never know going into the test who did that. It's just whatever subgroup scores in the bottom 25th percentile of your test.
And I think it usually says who, I think, doesn't it say who that group is for this? I thought I remember seeing that under the.
I don't see that. It just says that.
I think you guys have the cover page. Chris, you probably have the 14-page detail. They don't have the detail.
Okay.
I just feel like that's a weird piece to throw in there.
Yeah.
When they, Chris or Jason, either one, if they change the test like I've seen them do, every couple of years, isn't it hard to assess kind of
It's frustrating
where you're going, or if you had a
because
steady
none of
tool?
that information is put out to the public. I mean, I've seen lots of people saying, "Oh, the report cards are out, and this is where you're at." And yeah, but you have to sit through a half a day at CISA to understand how they come up with these numbers, and then when they change it so frequently, you're not comparing. You're comparing apples and oranges and bananas.
So Chris, just out of curiosity, what changed? What's been some of the changes like this year? Because I know the priorities have been a change.
I know
like about
when
40 years ago they went to priorities.
I'm going to talk about that
Oh,
pretty in
perfect.
detail in mine.
I was just going to say one thing that we noticed when we use some of the data from like the forward exam, even for figuring out who's going to be advanced in our math program, and we had to look at the actual scores because last year we had 2 kids that were in that advanced group. This year we had 12. And I don't think it was the fact that the kids just all of a sudden did much better. It was the fact that they changed the parameter for the cut score.
Okay.
And so we had to look at what we use for our actual cut score. And
Okay.
so our cut score is actually the high end of advanced not just the fact that you hit advanced.
So priorities, the choir hasn't changed, what you're saying is underlying like the cut scores and pieces have
Yes.
changed, not the
Yep.
format.
Yep.
Gotcha, okay. That makes sense, yeah.
Any other questions, board? Okay, moving on, Heather, business report, please.
Yep, an update on the 24-25 budget. At the end of October, we were 34% through our fiscal year, but we've only spent 19.4% of our budget, or $1.8 million. Update on our Fund 49, which, just a reminder, that's our referendum account. In the month of October, we had a revenue, which was just interest, which was $22.23. We didn't have any expenses, and our balance at the end of October was $8,771.52. Mr. Holzmer did touch on this, but I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and express my sincere gratitude to all district staff during this American Education Week. Their dedication and tireless efforts continue to ensure that our students receive high quality education, and their contributions are truly appreciated. So thank you. I've begun preparing for the April 25 school board election. And then included in my report, it was online in the consent agenda. There is a flyer that was from Baird, and it just kind of recapped the November 24 school district elections. And I just wanted to touch on some key takeaways. 78% of all questions asked did pass this election statewide. Our district asked for a reoccurring operating referendum alongside 21 other school districts. Of those 21 school districts that asked for a reoccurring operating referendum, 77.3 or 17 school districts were successful in passing their operating referendum. And that's all I have.
Any questions of Heather? All right, Aaron, superintendent. I'm sorry,
That's okay.
I skipped you, went right to Heather, I'm sorry. Whitney.
That's okay.
Special ed, please.
So as a district, the majority of staff members have participated in the Title IX required training. This training teaches people about the legal requirements of Title IX, a law that prohibits sex discrimination, and how to prevent and address sexual misconduct in the educational institutions. Jesse, Jessica, Nancy, Merwin, Pam, and myself have been collaborating to get ready for the December 10th snapshot. LEAs across Wisconsin collect school data and submit it to DPI every day. This data is live, ever-changing day by day. As corrections are made, new information is added and updates are completed. As a predetermined day, twice a year, a picture of the data in our DPI database is taken. A data snapshot is what they call it. This is used for accountability report cards, federal funding, or federal reporting and funding determinations. Although there are only 2 dates, the data is constantly ever-changing. And the district appointed staff members are updating and changing that, so we're in compliance with all of that. Those dates are December and May. And I did have a link, so if you wanted more information on that, feel free to browse. Our holiday food drive began this Monday. CCES is working with the Cuba City Lioness Holiday Project to provide items to families in need during the holiday season. Students can bring in high ticket items and receive tickets. Their names get put in them, and it gets put into a bucket for a drawing. And next Tuesday, we have an assembly. Names will get drawn, and they will be able to choose community members, staff members who have agreed to get smashed in the face by a pie. So I know Mr. Holzmer is on that list for many children. And then Mr. Holzmer and I would just like to thank all the family members that attended the Food with Families that took place on October 24th. We had 153 family members attend this event, so that's always nice to see. And the National Kindness Day was Wednesday, November 13th. Our elementary and middle school kindness crews organized fun dress-up days. Every student and staff member received kindness notes, daily announcements were given, and kindness sticker charts were earned. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Whitney.
Yeah.
Any questions of her?
I love what you guys did that kindness day, that's awesome. So,
Thank you.
Aaron, superintendent?
Yep, we got a couple things to talk about. First of all, you've heard a lot about the state report card. I just want to go through what those 4 categories are that make up that overall score. And the big difference is the change in cut scores. And I remember a board meeting probably 3 years ago, and Dan said, I've got a real problem with the state saying 2/3 of our kids are not proficient in reading. Why is the cut score so high? And the answer was because. Finally, the DPI wanted to look at that, and they brought in math teachers and ELA teachers from all over the state this summer to look at the test and then come up with test score or with a cut score that they thought, okay, at what point do you think the kids are advanced? At what point do you think they're proficient? So just an example, like last year, if a 4th grade student wanted to be proficient in writing, they may have had to be in the 68th percentile or higher, where this year that could be 49. So so when we look at total percentage of students who are proficient in advanced, if we look at from last year to this year, you'd be like, holy cow, what's everybody doing? It's not that, it's that the cut score is different. And it's not always that drastic, but that was one of them. So that's kind of the difference. So first of all, let's talk about achievement. Cuba City Schools as a district, in the district report card, we're in the top 20% of schools as far as achievement. In the state of Wisconsin, there's 421 schools. And this measures overall scores in English and math. And that's just the total score and how many are proficient or advanced. That's what we're looking at for achievement. Growth, on the other hand, is more difficult for students. When you score high in math and reading in 3rd and 4th grade, it's harder to show significant growth year by year. In fact, one area school said that they had one grade level that they had 100% of the kids. It's a small school and that doesn't happen all the time, but one year they had everybody scored proficient or advanced one year. Well, the next year they, on a scale of 0 to 100 in growth, they got a 0 because you can't grow from that. So that was really frustrating for that school. Target group outcomes, like I said, they take, after the test is done, they take a look at it and say, okay, what subgroup or cohort scores the worst year by year, and how does that group grow, and how is that group achieving? And that changes year by year. So it used to be that they'd have identified populations, and schools would target those groups, and they didn't want them targeted. They just wanted to teach into everybody. So now they say, we're not going to tell you who's in that group until afterwards. And then finally, we have on track for graduation. As Chris said, we're at 99.2%, which is pretty good and reflects the dedication of our staff and resiliency of our students at elementary, middle, and high school. So in summary, our achievement and on track for graduation scores are strengths of the district. Growth and target group outcomes are things that we still work on. But really, it's the student data, and this is a data point that teachers use. And they'll say, okay, maybe this kid tested well last year, but they didn't test as well this year. Let's see what win they have, or what win program they have to be in, what intervention do they need to get them back to where they need to be. That's really the strength, and that's kind of how we use it is, okay, let's look at it as a data point. We also have some other local assessments that we use for that as well. So that's just kind of an overview of the report card. I do have some good FEMA news, which we recently learned. We received the following message from FEMA, so I'll just read it verbatim and then I'll explain it. The reviews on Potosi and Cuba City, they keep putting us together, are done, and we are verifying the numbers. As both safe rooms were significantly oversized for the identified populations to be protected, what we will be sending you is a determination letter indicating the amount eligible for award for each of the sub-applications. With that, we'll need FEMA Go updated, and then we can process the awards. Alternatively, if the sub-applicants have specific information that would allow inclusion of any of the disallowed costs, WEM can submit that, and we'll make any edits to the figures. We'll set up a WEM and FEMA call to go through the determination. So in short, what that means is we got the grant, we don't know the final number. So when it says both rooms were significantly oversized for the identified population, what that means is kind of like the cut scores. When we applied for the grant, it said, okay, anybody, here's the safe room. Draw a circle 0.6 miles around, and then we count up how many people live in that area or how many businesses are in that area. And those people allow us to get more or less grant. in the last 3 years, they've changed that now. It's not you're not using a circle. Now it's who can get there realistically in a certain amount of time, whether it was 2 or 2.5 minutes. And so there are less houses that are covered by that. So it may not be that we get an $8.2 million grant. It might be less than that based on that change. But depending on what that change is, we're going to go out and we'll drive. If they say who can get there in less than 2.5 minutes, we're going to make sure they did it right. And we're going to go drive the routes and make sure we can get as many people in there as we can. But that's good news. So I heard from Jordan today and his recommendation, because there's an action item on here. And he said, good afternoon, Aaron and board. Due to the recent information received from FEMA, I would recommend that you do not have the Board of Education consider approving moving forward with the pre-award design activities at tonight's meeting. The information we've received over the past week is all good news, as we received confirmation that we are able to move forward with the full design and pre-award, and confirmation that FEMA Region 5's benefit cost analysis engineering team has completed their review. They have indicated that a FEMA award letter is forthcoming. That's the big sentence in this. But we are reviewing their numbers. We'll review to make sure it's okay with the eligible amount. Once we receive these numbers, we'll have the opportunity to submit justification if we do not agree with them. This appears to be great news, as the review has been completed and there are no more requests for information. So great news on FEMA, and it's been a while since we were able to report any good news on FEMA. So yes. Any questions on that?
So we can start design now.
Yep.
And which means how long for design and how long before something goes to bid?
So good question. Bray says 2 months once they start working on the project. We're getting into that Thanksgiving and Christmas, they're not going to start it tomorrow because they're probably already in projects. So they're going to get to it as soon as they can. They said probably 2 months if they can rush it and get it done in 6 months, because we had some of it done already. That doesn't include the FEMA changes. Some of that is already done for the regular gym. So we're hoping 2 months for design, 1 month for Brad to take the design and then come up with the bid specs and then put that out to bid for 1 month. The goal is if we get this before January 1st, they think that we're going to be able to be breaking ground on May 10th when kids are out.
Okay, good.
So that's the hope.
Okay. Will we have a meeting in the future? Just try and set timelines, or what do you envision?
Yes. So we'll probably go back to those core planning meetings, and then most of my superintendent reports will just be all that, and that's what my weekly messages will be heavy in that again once we start up there, because it's been a while since we've even met about the building project, and we've got some new board members that will want to catch up as well.
Any other questions of Aaron? All righty. Public recognition. Jesse Dunham.
Hello, everyone. Yes, hello. So, this is my 11th school year in the elementary school, and sitting in the same office for 11 years. And so far, we are on our 5th principal, our 4th guidance counselor, and our 2nd special ed director. Now, not many of those have really happened at the same time as the other, and they've happened for different reasons and all that. This is the first year we have had all 3 of them, a 5th principal, a 4th guidance counselor, and a 2nd special education director, all at the same time. And that makes a person go, what are we going to do? These 3, Jordan's not here, have stepped into their positions so beautifully and so seamlessly. There's laughter in our building again. There's family in our building again. I come to work every morning, most mornings. I don't like mornings, and they know this. I'm happy, and I smile, and I look forward to the next day. Not every day is sunshine and roses. Most of us, probably all of us, ended the day today with, I'm done. I'm going home, but I'm still looking forward to coming back tomorrow. So we are 7 days away from Thanksgiving. And with that, since the entire elementary staff couldn't be here tonight because we need a bigger room, we wanted to impart some of our thanks to our 3 new top players in our building, Miss Casper, Mr. Holzmer, and Miss Jordan, who again, not here. She's enjoying a dinner with her family. And we wanted to share some of our thoughts with them. These are for their reading eyes only, but we took care of sharing our thanks for our new key players. So that's all I had.
Thank you, Jesse.
That's me. I'm following up with Julie about some funding options that were, and I discussed this with you when I stopped by that day. I did look it up. It is section 118 of the Wisconsin statutes. I believe it's 118.27. And the one section, or the federal code is 170 for donations. So the school can receive tax deductible donations. So somebody can donate to the school for whatever your funding is, which might help with some of your operating stuff. I don't know if people are willing to do that. You had what, 1,200 plus votes for the yes? So that might be something that you can reach out or publicize or put out there that we can accept donations. And this is, you might have to put together a form on it, or somebody would have to put together a form on it. So if somebody that did want to donate, that they could have that form available, and here's the process of how you can do that. Now, some of them can be restricted. When I read some of the rules, some of them can be restricted, so they could say it can only be used for operating expenses. It can only be used for, here's what my requirement is. But if they donate, the school board has to set the rules up of here's the allowable things that we can let you donate to. If it doesn't fall into this, then we can't accept your donation. And that would be on you. And I'm not into your area, so you'd have to look up what those rules are.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So is that something we will look into that? Yep. Okay. Thank you. Great. We're on to new business then. A is approved the date and time of the December regular Board of Education meeting. Our current meeting is set for December 18th at 6:30. Is there any changes that are needed?
One item, not about this, but it's about a meeting. We had talked about having Baird come in and talk about the differences between recurring and non-recurring. They're not available on the 18th, but they are available December 11th, the week before that Wednesday. And they would have to be here, we'd have to be here at 5 because the FAFSA meeting for our juniors and senior parents is in the library at 6:30. So would 5 o'clock on December 11th work for a special board meeting to just, and that's a workshop. There's no action going to be taken. We're just listening to Bear talk about the differences between recurring and non-recurring.
Board, what's your
preference? I'm out of town that week, so.
We're going to videotape it too, and we can push that out because it's information for everybody.
Is there a way, just thinking of the holidays, and there's so much going on, could we combine it to one meeting, or is that not a possibility?
We certainly, we could have both meetings December 11th if you'd like, and we can just have Baird be a part of that
I'm just
meeting.
thinking of holidays and stuff.
That's what I was gonna suggest, but
I'm not available the 11th either.
So that's 2 weeks.
Let's see, St. Rose Christmas program.
Yeah.
That is,
Oh.
let's just look for a different date then.
Yeah.
We'll keep looking.
I guess if you did it at 5:30 and you were done by 7, because it starts at 7. But
Yeah, and 5:30 with the FAFSA meeting at 6:30 might be a tough.
You got, if you're
Swap.
gonna have Baird present unless you got
Yeah.
almost no agenda.
And we might have to go on a non-Wednesday, but I'll put that out and see when, I believe was it Elise from Baird is the one who said she could make it on some day. So we'll keep working with her and I'll let you guys know.
Okay. So is there no need to change this at this time then, Aaron?
Yeah.
Okay, just keep it. All right. We'll move to B then, approve the WIAA co-op for gymnastics with Southwestern.
Yep, this just extends the same agreement that we've always had with Southwestern.
Is there any questions of that? Hearing none, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the WIAA co-op for gymnastics with Southwestern
Is there a
School
second?
District. I'll second.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Pinderman, yes, Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
Then if it's all right, board, we're gonna skip C because it was the FEMA construction design
Yep.
timeline. And D then is approve the 2025 senior class overnight trip to Great America on April 26th of 25.
It's overnight-ish, like they drive there and they stay at the park until like 2 a.m. and then they drive back. So it is technically overnight, but they're not staying in a hotel or anything. I think they've done this the last 2 years.
Is there any questions? Someone move?
I'll move to approve the 2025 senior class overnight trip to Great America on April 26, 2025 as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth.
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Then we're into personnel. A is approve the hiring of Jane Whittick as a part-time food service employee.
Yep, this takes the place of a retiring employee here, and Janet and Chris and I all recommend Jane for this position.
If there's no questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Jane Whittick as the part-time food service employee as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And B is approve the hiring of Riley Rosenkrantz as the middle school 8th grade girls basketball coach.
Yep, this takes place as Coach Troy Kraus, or Principal Troy Kraus, both left last year. Riley's a Cuba City High School grad who attends UW Platteville and has helped with this group and helped his mom, Sarah, coach for the last few years.
If there's no questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Riley Rosenkrantz as CCMS 8th grade girls basketball coach as presented.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White, abstain. Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item C is approve Chris Walter as a volunteer assistant high school wrestling coach.
Yep, he has volunteered in our wrestling program in the past and former college head coach at UW Platteville and was a former Badger himself wrestling. So I recommend that we approve this hire, or this volunteer.
Is there any question about a motion?
I'll move to approve volunteer coach Chris Walter as presented.
I'll second.
Here's my list. Jeez. Joel,
Yes.
Barth,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We're into committee reports, budget and finance. Is there any
Probably won't meet again.
need for a meeting or anything?
Nope.
Okay. Building and grounds, Chuck, anything?
Not at this time.
Okay. Personnel, we just met tonight, and that'll be on the
December meeting.
The results will be on the December board meeting. Policy,
Likely January or February, they usually send out some updates.
Okay.
About 3-4 times a year.
okay. Technology and transportation, Dan or Aaron, is there any?
We're gonna find a date in December to go over to the shop. They got some new technology they want to show us too, ways to communicate with parents.
Foundation, you last met on August 28th, and looks like you'll meet again the first of the year, sort of.
Yep, after the first of the year.
Alrighty. I don't have anything in CISA 3, and that leads us to an adjournment. Does someone move?
Can I just ask a question? Knowing that decisions are made at the, or conversation is had more at the committee level, I just want to get a board feel for how we have more open conversations about issues with, when I'm not on a committee. Like how I express concerns, how I get an input on something, how I just feel like there's a lack of knowledge, a lack of communication that I would really like to see maybe open up a little more, because I feel very lost in some of these things. If we have committees making these decisions to talk about things, why aren't committees meeting every month? Regardless of whether or not we have stuff to talk about or not, I feel like we have to be meeting more often if we are a committee-based board. I don't know. I guess that's, if we can't, I mean, unless it's posted on the agenda, we can't talk about it, but then how do we talk amongst each other is my question.
I guess I'll.
So I guess I'm just
input from
asking
the
for
board on
feedback
the
or,
comment.
I don't know.
Is there a reason committees, I'm guessing the reason committees are at 3 or less is so we don't have more, correct? It's 100%.
Yep.
but we're still able to attend and but not participate if we want to sit on the committee's meetings, but just not participate. And that's one way I would suggest. I mean, I sat in tonight. I'm not a part of the committee, but I was able to at least sit and hear what the conversations where I couldn't participate, but I was able to be there. That might be a way to at least stay involved in what's going on with the other committees might be an option.
We could have the chair of the committees actually make a report if they had a meeting as to what was discussed. And I mean, any recommendations obviously go to the agenda for the full board. And that comes out of that committee as a recommendation to do or not do something. Otherwise, the board obviously could ask for a different structure. Aaron had said that Mineral Point, for instance, correct me if I'm wrong, don't have committees.
They haven't. I'm not sure if I know they were trying to get committees, so for a long time they did not. I'm not sure if they currently
They
do
just
this.
had really long board meetings where they discussed everything.
I mean,
Everything that was listed on the agenda.
Personally, I kind of, again, being new to the board, it is kind of nice to know when you come to the board meeting and it's on the agenda to know how we got from that, how we got there. And even if I can't be a part of that, to be able to have the opportunity to sit and at least hear how the committee got to where they got with that decision or that proposal. I would like, I mean, that helps me understand too.
Yep. And I appreciate your coming tonight and, calling me. Julie, I guess, Angie's thing about, coming, I guess, I don't know if there's a need to meet every month. I mean, some of the committees, like policy doesn't really have anything new.
I chair policy, and that is so often based on state mandates and things coming in. So that one doesn't meet monthly; it meets more quarterly. But we can be more proactive of when those happen to make sure they get to the board in a Friday report, as opposed to being in the packet the night of. So there's more time to review, and I can be more proactive in explaining what we talked about. Though, when it's a state mandate, many times it's, well, they told us legally we have to change this language. So policy is maybe not the best example, but to your point, especially now if FEMA gets rolling again, core planning and building and grounds is one that I would be more interested in getting more detailed report and understanding of in particular.
And I think that one particularly needs a lot of conversation, and we could, devote a few minutes every meeting to what's happened and or what's going to happen.
And I also think too with the referendum, where we're sitting at the personnel piece, and just knowing where we're looking at with everything and having a better understanding of that is also, I think, equally important a little bit. So I like to continue to come and sit and just be a fly on the wall and just be present so I can kind of understand better. As long as you're good with that, that's what I would like to continue to do.
The other thing to think of, this summer, maybe we do a board retreat and we just talk about the board processes and things. And maybe
I'm not worried about the process. I think it's just a lack of, I'm going to go with the transparency word, because I feel like there is a lack of transparency with some things that I just don't feel is communicated to fellow board members or our community. And I feel like our community deserves to know some of this stuff too. So I just feel like we owe our taxpayers, which is, I know why some of them probably voted no, is because they don't feel we are sharing the information they need and want to hear.
Can you give us an example?
Not off the top of my head. But I just feel like there are things that I can go back to the last referendum with the list of the cuts that were made and just I don't know. I just feel like there's just a lack of conversation around certain items. And I would really encourage, for our sake as a board, our sake as getting a community on our side, that we need to be transparent with them and let them be part of it. Let them be part of the process.
Gary, if you go back to when we did the referendum for the junior high and the elementary, you were at a few meetings. Megan was there before she was on the board. We had meeting after meeting after meeting and input. And that way I felt that we wanted to give the taxpayers some respect, so we get respect in return. Because reason I got on, they didn't trust the board. I says, nah, we can change that. You know, we got to earn their trust back, and then nothing hidden. You know, because I mean, we had meeting after meeting. I didn't care how many we went to. We wanted to have them involved and have some ownership in it, because they're the one paying for it. And I would just like to see that opened up a little more. If they come, they come, but I hope that they can start to come, because they did then.
Well, I mean, at this point, anything we can do
Anything to do is gonna
to
help.
improve the communication,
Right.
I'm just not sure, other than what was just discussed,
Right.
how we do that. I, for one, am not hiding anything. I mean, if,
And I'm not saying we
um,
are, but I feel like based on the number of head nods I just saw in the audience, I think that they're feeling very truth to what, I feel like they feel the truth of what I'm saying. I don't know. I know when I was in their shoes, I felt the same way.
well, I guess I'm disheartened to hear that, because I guess there was no intent to hide anything. I just don't know, other than, should we say, reverting to not having committees and everything's discussed at one huge meeting, or some meetings are shorter than others because you're gonna have a committee meeting, meaning that, for instance, tonight, if we had the personnel, you know, we'd have that. And then we'd go into, you know, something else, or you somehow can, you know, contain that within the existing agenda. So I'm not sure. We've done this type of board meeting for years. And, you know, I know that obviously we've had our struggles. We've ran more than 10 referendums, and more than half have failed. And obviously, I think in the end, we've either been able to communicate or beg, or whatever the correct word would be, is that the good people, the taxpayers, do support education. And obviously, you know, their no's obviously mean something, and we obviously have to figure out what it is that they want and how to deliver it.
And that's what I would think. I think that's what we have to figure out, is why, you know, what is the underlying root cause of why were the no's, and what is the reason that we're sitting with two failed referendums back to back, which we are going to have discussions around. I know this isn't the night for it. Maybe it is an opportunity to reconsider how we do business moving forward, at least at this juncture of where we're at. I mean, if there is and again, it doesn't have to be decided tonight, but if there is a sense of, we do have these conversations during the board meeting as much as we possibly can to you know, show 100% transparency, right? Like, we're not meeting behind closed doors, and that, you know, that we're here it is, you know, and the good, bad, the ugly, whatever. I mean, but it might be something to consider. I mean, looking at, we may have to change course with what we're saying. And we've talked about this, and we're looking at down the road here of, you know, what April's going to bring, and where we land at the end of April. We're all being positive, but we also have to be realistic. And so to sit and just wait and see what happens, I think we have to make some changes sooner rather than later to really try to push forward that we're going to get this referendum in April. That's just my 2 cents. It's going to be decided tonight, but maybe what we're doing right now just isn't working. That's just, I mean, but
Anyone else?
I would like to see specifics. If somebody feels that way, I would like to see, before we would revamp the board, change any processes that we're doing, I'd like to see some specifics on what you believe we're failing on, and if we can correct that in some way, other than just in generalities, say things aren't working, let's disband committees or do anything like
Well,
that.
maybe it's a committee that we don't have. Like, if we see themes of somewhere, we can create more committees or develop some.
A
solution for
communication
something
committee,
that's-
or is that what you're referring to, maybe?
The board can always add a committee, so you don't have to wait till May. You know, so that's something that you want to do. You can always add one, or just take board action.
And when I'm saying failing, I mean, I'm not saying failing committees, I'm saying right now, we're looking like we just failed to referendum them. And we've continued the same process, right? And I don't know, it was different from this referendum to the year before referendum. I got on the board in April. So that's what I'm saying, is, if it's not working, we have to fix it, right? Right, so.
Well, and I guess obviously to the public and or anybody that's on, remotely listening, if you have specifics you'd like to see, please call me, call any of the board members, call Aaron, and tell us what it is that we need to do. How we need to deliver a message or a different message or whatever, please. Because I think we're all here for education of our kids and the betterment of the school. And, we can't do that without everybody. We can't do it without, obviously, the financial support. Anything else? Thank you, Julie.
Just thank you to all your the teachers that are here. National Education Week, it's a big week. I appreciate everything.
Is anything else? I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Yeah.